Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we're going to be giving a full walkthrough and tour of all of my basement aquariums. I currently have 10 cichlid tanks set up down here and 1 saltwater tank. And we're going to go through each tank, each fish, all the different setups, but most importantly, I'm going to be revealing some massive projects that are happening simultaneously down here in my basement with all of my different aquariums, my fish room. They're going to be some of the biggest things that are happening on the channel and for me, so I'm very excited to finally start revealing that and share the plans that I've had for 2024 and the rest of the year. So really excited for this one, can't wait. Let's dive right in. So here's just a quick walkthrough of the current layout of the basement. Right here on my desk, I have the new Hello Reef aquarium kit with my new clownfish. I have the 180-gallon tank, which has been set up for a while, the 150-gallon custom aquarium. Then I have my 135-gallon African cichlid tank. This is also a custom aquarium. Next to that, I have my 90-gallon discus tank with some space over here, which I'm definitely going to get to probably towards the end of the video. But if you continue in here, this is the fish room, and in the fish room I have 6 different tanks set up. I have a double rack on the left with a 40-gallon and a 33-gallon flex, and then on the wall I have a 75-gallon tank, a 10-gallon tank, and a double rack of 20-gallon tanks, which are currently holding my Cuban cichlids. So I figured I would start with maybe the smaller of the 2 announcements right here in the fish room. As you can see, the layout of these aquariums are a little disjointed, and it's kind of been bugging me for a while, and the tank sizes are all different. You know, I have a 33, a 40, a 75, you know, it's just not really organized, and the stands are all different, and I have like the 10-gallon tank under the stand of my 75, so the 75-gallon tank's door is always open, and I've just always been wanting to update this, and I'm going to make it happen finally. I'm going to make a much better looking DIY stand where all the different tanks will be level. On the top of that, I'm going to have 2 75-gallon tanks, including this one right here, and a new one that's coming, and then the 2 20-gallons are going to be on the same row, and then I'll have a little bit of storage underneath those. And then on the other side, I'm probably going to remove the 33-gallon Fluval Flex and replace it with a 40-gallon breeder so that that's all consistent, and I might update that stand as well. So this is all going to look so much better, aesthetically pleasing. There's going to be a couple tank upgrades, including that new 75, so I'm really excited for that. It's definitely going to be needed as I get new fish, bigger fish that I need to quarantine and potentially go into my biggest project yet, so more to come on that very soon. So I'm just going to quickly go through what's happening in each of these 6 cichlid tanks here in the fish room. Since so much is changing, I won't spend too much time on it, but starting with the 75-gallon tank here, this is what's left of my electric blue Acara grow outs. If you have seen the channel, I had about 80 to 100 of these, and I'm down to about 20 now, and I'm still going to keep some, still going to give a few more away. But this has always been a very fun tank to watch just because there's so much electric blue coloration and activity, and electric blue cars are just one of my favorite cichlids. And there's actually been breeding with 2 of the electric blue Acaras in the last week. You can see right there on the Dragonstone. You could barely see little wigglers, but these grow outs have already bred, so I definitely need to get some of these moved around. I don't want to continue to have so many fry of electric blue Acara. So more to come on where all these guys are be going, but I do need to make room because the Cuban cichlids are going to be going in the 75-gallon tank with a brand new scape, and the Cuban cichlids have been doing really well in the 20-gallon tanks. I've had them separate. Both of these Cuban cichlids are absolutely stunning fish. They already have some good size. It's really fun to watch them attack food. You could just already tell how aggressive that they will be, and hopefully when I put the pair in a tank together that they'll do okay. I might put a little divider in there when I first introduce them, we will see, but there will be a full update on scaping their tank and putting them in there once the fish room all comes together. And then underneath the electric blue Acara tank is my 10-gallon holding tank, which I did add some Anubias plants to just to hold them for future projects. And one thing I'm definitely going to be doing with the new fish room setup is just loading up plants. I probably can't do that in the Cuban cichlid tank, but for all the other tanks I'm going to have them loaded up with plants so that I don't have to do as many water changes. The fish room's pretty far away from my sink, and I would prefer to do less water changes, especially since I have so many other tanks and setups coming. And this 10-gallon tank just has a couple of pistogramma, which will also be getting their own tank, hoping to breed them as well. And then when you go to the left of the fish room, you'll see the 33-gallon football flex with the shell dwellers. These guys are African shell dwellers from Lake Tanganyika. I've had this tank set up for about 4 years now, and it's been really interesting to watch these guys grow. So many babies. Every time you look in the tank, there's new babies in their shells, and it's just a really interesting, different type of tank setup, although the football flex is not the ideal tank for them, since it does have that curved panel and that all-in-one filtration in the back. When the shell dwellers are moving the sand around, it really piles up or really gets into the filter. I've actually burned out 2 small pumps on this tank already, and it's just kind of been annoying to deal with, so I'm either going to get rid of the shell dwellers completely or just give them one of the new 40-gallon breeders. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter there, but we will see. Below them is the 40-gallon breeder with the cold water cichlids from the Paraguay-Uruguay region, the Gymnogeophagus terrapurpura. I have some panda cories and some green fire tetras, and this is another tank I kind of want to revamp, maybe add some new pieces of driftwood and way more plants too. I've just kind of been lazy with this one because I knew things are going to be changing in the fish room. But the Gymnogeophagus, even though they hide out a lot, when they do come out, they are absolutely beautiful fish, and they will continue to grow. I've had them for about 2.5 to 3 years now, but they still have a little room to grow. But that's kind of the current state of the fish room. Like I said, so many things are going to be changing, so remember how you see it today, because it's going to look very different the next time you see it in a video. But let's go out into the main room and talk about the updates on the big tanks and what's coming up very soon here. Okay, so then as we walk out of the fish room, we have the 135 custom aquarium here with the African cichlids. Let's check it out. So this is a 135-gallon custom aquarium with Lake Malawi African cichlids, specifically with different peacocks and haplochromis. And some of these guys have really put on some size and started to mature with some great coloration. The sunshine peacock and the lemon jake have great yellow and blues. The Nagara flametail has some really great orange patterns. The big Z-Rock has that yellow forehead. My blue dolphins have started to put on some size. The Star Sapphire is just starting to get some of that metallic chipping to him. And once he does mature, he'll kind of transform, which I can't wait to see. I have the Luanda peacock and the Walteri. They're doing well. I think the Taiwan Reef has put on the most size since the last time I've shown this tank, but it still hasn't popped with color yet. It has a little bit of blue, but this guy is really on the verge of starting to color up, and he'll eventually be one of the bigger ones in this tank. The Dragon Blood Peacock has some awesome red coloration. My 2 OBs have beautiful patterns, especially the Cyanochromis Friar Eye OB. The Deepwater Hap was a tiny little guy when I put him in here, and he started to put on some size and has really held his own. I also have the Madoka White Lips, also looking good. And then there's the Eastern Hap, which has kind of become one of my favorites in the tank because it has some unique color patterns to him and a unique face. It has some of that yellow but also greenish tint, which you don't get in a ton of different African cichlids, so really excited about that guy to continue maturing, along with some of the others in the tank, and I might also add a few more down the line. But my rockscape is very minimal. I have aragonite sand mixed with some crushed shells, and overall this is kind of the ideal setup for peacocks and haps, just having more open water swimming space, because if you do have too much decor, takes away that swimming space and can create more territorial aggression as they try and take over spots in the tank. So I know this type of tank setup isn't for everyone, but I really do like the contrast this has compared to some of my Central and South American cichlid tank setups. And I also think the mounting system that I have for the lighting here has really put this tank over the top for me, because it just stands out from the rest of my aquariums. I really like these 2 aqualumination freshwater blade lights with that mounting system. I think it looks really great, and I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it does create that shimmer, especially when there's good surface agitation going on. So really enjoying this tank, but let's move on to the 150. So this is the 150-gallon custom aquarium, and things have been going really smoothly in this tank except for maybe the last week or two, which I'll explain. But this tank has South American cichlids for the most part, with my Geophagus spini. I have a couple big adults that are probably nearing around 8 to 9 inches, maybe even more than 9 inches if you count their trailers. I also have an albino hecali, I have 4 electric blue acara, and they have been doing great in here. The big male was actually the father of the electric blue acara in my fish room. I also have a very old Jurupari. He's about 6.5 years old now. And then I have a school of denizen barbs, and these guys are incredible. I love them. I definitely would like to have even more. Oh, and I can't forget the 2 angelfish. And the Anubias plants have really grown in here, and because they're not rooted into the substrate, the geophagus aren't uprooting them, and things have really gone smoothly. And I do have a couple bristlenose plecos in here that keep some algae off of the glass and off of the leaves. And everything has been very balanced except for about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, the geophagus spini started to fight all of a sudden. Normally they're very peaceful, but the 2 males went at it, and I had this big fish keeping fail that I did a full video on, which I basically destroyed the scape, which I loved, and broke off a couple pieces of plants and driftwood, and I actually pulled out the wrong geophagus spini, so you'll see the female in the other tank coming up very soon, but it was just kind of a mess and kind of an error on my part. But things have really balanced out over the last couple weeks. I'm just keeping a very close eye on this tank because the 2 males could start fighting again at any point. There might be some other changes coming between this and my 180 that will start opening up some space and maybe change things even further. This tank has Crystal River sand, which I really like, from Carib Sea. It has that really awesome piece of driftwood that's kind of the centerpiece, focal point of the tank, with the Anubias and some rocks scattered around. And then I have the 2 AI primes as lighting, which I always get asked about. And yes, they are more expensive lighting options than your standard LEDs, but they really do make this tank stand apart. People always ask about them, and just generally they look great on the tank. You know, you can't really beat that shimmer off of the geophagus spini's colors. And I'm really happy I kind of splurged with those 2 AI prime lights. And on this custom aquarium, I do run a seamless sump with a Cichlid pump. Same setup that I have on the 135 I just walked through with the African cichlids. I absolutely love the seamless sump, and it's worked perfectly for both tanks the entire time I've had them. And I would highly recommend it to anyone that's looking to get a big tank from Custom Aquariums. Definitely get the seamless sump. But let's move on to the 180 gallon tank. This is also South American cichlids, and some of these guys I've had for a little bit longer, and they are reaching their adult size. Obviously front and center you'll see my big Tiger Oscar Nessie. I've had this Oscar for about 4 years now, and it's gotten really big in the tank like most Oscars do. And then I have a really big ball of shark that's probably about 6 years old now, and that's the one fish that's not a South American cichlid. I also have 3 different severums. My 2 red spot gold severums, or just gold severums, have been breeding off and on probably once a month in the back corner, but if I ever were to pull them out and let them breed, that would be pretty cool. So I've always thought about that, but not sure if I will. I have a couple geophagus pyrocephalus left. If you remember, I used to have a bigger group, but I've lost a couple over the last year or 2. These guys are getting up there in age for a geophagus topos or pyrocephalus. They're about 6 years old now, so they may not have a lot of time left, but I still love these guys nonetheless. Then I have a big geophagus spini in here. That's what I was talking about earlier. That is the big female that I accidentally pulled out of the 150 instead of a male, but just pulling her out of the 150 has been completely fine. It's fit in really well in this 180, and even though it's no longer with its group, it has done really well. So very happy about that. And then I do have 3 walrus cichlids, which are relatively new to me, but they are still a pretty good size. I got them when they were a little bit bigger, maybe around 5 to 6 inches, and they fit in really nicely with the other South American cichlids. I love these guys. Those red eyes are really awesome and just a unique cichlid to keep. I also have this Geophagus steindachtneri female, which is a pretty old fish as well, probably around 5 years old now. Has a little bit of yellow coloration and a red forehead, but not that big hump that the males get. And then there's a Cyclosoma bimaculatum, or the black acara, and this guy is also big and pretty chunky. He's not the prettiest looking fish if you're looking for these bright colors, but I've really enjoyed him. He's been very peaceful, worked really well with all these other fish. And when I picked him up, he was maybe an inch and already had that tear in his dorsal fin, so I think he would look even better without that tear in the dorsal fin. But either way, I've really enjoyed keeping him. He's kind of like a less colorful version of a chocolate cichlid to me. But overall, the cichlids in here are just some of my favorites. I love Geophagus and Severums, and of course the Oscar is stunning. But this is a 180 gallon acrylic aquarium, which is 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, which was really the biggest aquarium I could fit down the stairs into my basement. And that's going to come into play here very soon when I get to the big reveal and announcement. But I went with acrylic for this tank because it is lighter whenever it's not full or anything in it, so it's easier to maneuver down the stairs, and we did get it into place. The glass tanks I have are 150, 135, etc. They're a little bit smaller because we needed that ability to maneuver it, but that's why we went with acrylic on the 180. But then if you come over here to my desk, this is where I do a lot of the editing for my videos. This is my 15-gallon cube. This is a Hello Reef aquarium kit, which I set up about 2 months ago. And a few weeks ago, I did add the Oscillaris clownfish. They're doing great in here. The tank is just super simple with good equipment. The aquarium kit is something I would recommend to people. It's a great beginner aquarium when you're getting into saltwater. The clownfish have been great, but I have a huge update coming to this tank because I'm getting either corals or anemones. I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm just trying not to reveal it too much here, but there's going to be a really cool addition to this tank probably within the next week. I added the clownfish first just to make sure that the aquarium was fully cycled before I added the corals or anemones, but I can't wait to show you what I'm going to be adding in this tank. I've already secured it. I have a friend holding it for me. It's going to be awesome. I've definitely enjoyed having this aquarium next to me at my desk as I do work, but it's not the permanent location of this tank. Let's go to the little nook here. We have one more aquarium to get to and then the big announcement. So when you walk through the fish room, the 2 tanks we just went through, and then the 135 right there, and then if you go around into this nook, there is another 90-gallon aquarium and more space to work with. So this is the 90-gallon discus aquarium, and it's doing okay. Not a whole lot to update here. I did add a few new plants to the back there. I'll put the name of it on the screen. I already forgot what it is, but it's supposed to do well as a plant with higher temperatures, which has kind of been the issue with some of the plants I've tried in this tank. The Nubius and Java Fern do great. The Crypts have done not so great, and the Sagittaria didn't do very well. And I think it's due to the higher temperatures and maybe just lack of nutrients. So I've kicked up the lighting a little bit and added more root tabs to some of the plants that need it. But overall, it's looking okay. I definitely would like to do more with this aquarium once the plants grow in. And I have 5 discus in here, and they're doing pretty well. You'll probably only see 3 of them most of the time. 2 of them hide out all the time behind the rock structures. I might be able to get some footage of seeing one of them come out when I was kind of creeping up to the tank here. But I also have a big school of rummy nose tetras, and some of these guys have gotten pretty big size for a rummy nose tetra. I also have a small school, I think 6 corydoras that hang out in the rock and driftwood, and they only really come out whenever it's either night or if I'm feeding the tank, they'll come out and kind of pick up anything that lands on the substrate and clean up after the discus and the tetras. But I would like to add maybe more rummy nose tetras to this school. I love seeing just a massive school, and also just hope that the plants grow in. But this is a 90-gallon aquarium that I bought used on Facebook Marketplace, and I painted the stand and canopy, and I think it looks pretty good. It really just needs a little more attention in terms of the plants. When you're looking at the discus tank here, you may notice that there's a ton of room and space in this nook of the basement. These walls aren't finished, but there is a lot to work with over here, and that's where the next big projects comes into play. So as you can see, I have all this extra space, and even this equipment and all these other supplies, they could definitely move out of this corner if need be, and they do need to be, because the big announcement is that I'm going to be building a big plywood aquarium right here in the basement.
Holy moly.
So like I said, the 180-gallon acrylic aquarium was really the biggest aquarium I could fit down my stairs. I've been dying to get a bigger aquarium, and the best way of doing that is to build my own, and that's what I'm going to do. I am both excited and nervous to get this underway. I've been doing a ton of research, so I'm about as confident as I could be for someone that's never done this before. I have done a couple DIY things, like building some aquarium stands for smaller aquariums, I've plumbed multiple sumps, but nothing to the scale that I'm going to be doing. But I'm really excited to be learning and showing the progress along the way. It's going to be an awesome plywood aquarium, and I'm not going to reveal exactly how big it is. I have shared that with the members, but I'm not going to reveal exactly how big it is until I start the process, which is coming very soon. As you can see, I already have bought some of the materials. I just ordered the panel of glass, and I'm going to be picking up the plywood and the wood for the aquarium to start on that this week. All these things are happening very soon. Like I said, the updates to the fish room will be happening simultaneously to the plywood aquarium build, and there will be stages of the plywood aquarium that require me to wait for things to cure or dry. And while that's happening, I'll be working on the fish room, and everything will just be completely revamped down here in my basement. And because of the updates in the fish room and the big plywood aquarium, that means a lot of fish in my basement are going to be getting upgrades to their tank size. And I also have some plans for livestock in that plywood aquarium that are going to be awesome. Super excited. It's probably the best time to be subscribed to the channel because we're doing so much. Like I said, this is kind of a huge process down here in my basement, but I think it's going to be well worth it. And then that's not even counting what's going on with Alec and Quinn. Alec has a fish basement, and then Quinn is updating a lot of his classroom aquariums. So a lot going on, and I can't wait to show it. I hope you enjoyed seeing the current state of the fish room and the aquariums down here in my basement. But the next time you see them, I'll probably already be started on the plywood aquarium and the updates to the fish room. So it's going to look very different here on the channel, but hopefully all good things and all improvements, and hopefully things go smoothly and I don't flood my basement or something with that plywood tank. So thanks so much for watching. Keep an eye out for those updated videos coming very soon. Can't wait to show them, and we'll see you next time.